What's going on, guys? UFC Saudi Arabia is up this weekend. We've got Whittaker versus Aliskerov in a short notice replacement for Khamzat, where is Khamzat these days? I don't know. Apparently he had food poisoning, but yeah, I guess Aliskerov is probably a better replacement, to be honest, because I think it'll be a much more closer fight. I thought Whittaker would sweep with Khamzat, but yeah, here we are, and fights are just dropping off. They're getting added day by day, so this might be prior to some fights being added, but I'll update you later on the week on my Twitter at DC Picks for my updated picks as well. I think without further ado, we should just start, and our first fight is a I guess it's a UFC fight. It's not really, it's a road to the UFC final fight, and it's against Long Xiao versus Chang Li. So we've got the Chinese fighter against the South Korean fighter, and they are, I swear they are identical, not in terms of looks, but in terms of the way they fight. They both like to use wrestling. They're both not that good, and I just don't know if they're going to succeed in the UFC, but I'll have to break this fight down first. So we'll start off with the Long Xiao side. What he's good at, I think, is just like a mixed bag. I don't think he's really excelled in a certain area. He has good takedown defense. He's got good cardio. He threw some nice uppercuts against Canones on the Contender Series, which is the fight that he lost. And he's just like, he has a steady pace throughout the whole fight, so he never really drops off too far, but he never really excels as well. Negative of him, he just doesn't move his head. He just gets hit and hit and hit, and he leans forward and does these swimming punches. Like, I've seen a lot of fighters do them recently. It must be the new trend, but yeah, he likes to lean forward and just throw without caution. And you saw, like I said, in the Kamakubo fight especially, he does not move his head. For Chang Li, I think he's more predominantly a wrestler than anything else, but still he doesn't really excel in that wrestling, I don't think. He was kind of fairly out-wrestled by De Missy on the road to UFC. And he also got out-wrestled on his only loss, which was on Brave, and it was to Kai Zhong, where he kind of got out-wrestled himself. But he does have some cardio benefits, and he does have a lot of heart. He came back against that De Missy fight. He was down 2 rounds, and he finished him in the 3rd, which was pretty impressive to see. But like Xiao, he does not move his head at all. Like, he gets probably hit more out of the two, and he's exactly the same as Xiao. I don't think any of these two fighters excel in anything, and I think the odds are where they should be, because I don't see any clear advantage for the other. I am going to pick Xiao here, and it's based on 2 things. Firstly, I think that his experience, 26-7 compared to 10 fights for Ho Li, is extremely beneficial. Even if it might be against lower tier competition, it still helps you find your footing in a fight, or he might be able to figure things out a bit faster than Li. And secondly, I just think he's got a few more tools than Li. I feel like Li's kind of heavily dependent on the wrestling, whereas Xiao can maybe strike a little bit. And like I said, he's got that steady pace, so it will take him throughout the fight. But I'm going to take Xiao, and I'm going to take him by decision. Up next, we have the undefeated fighter MagomedcGadzhiyasulov versus Brendson Ribeiro. And this should be fun while it lasts, because Brendson Ribeiro is kind of do or die. He will either knock someone out or finish them, or he will get finished himself. We'll start off with the Gadzhiyasulov side. So he's a typical Sambo wrestler from Dagestan, but he has striking to match as well with the wrestling. He does everything well in the first round, and I mean everything. He can strike beautifully, he wrestles, he shoots singles, doubles, whatever it needs to be to get it to the floor. And I emphasize the first round, because after that, he kind of falls off a cliff. He becomes sloppy as soon as the second round starts, and I don't know if that was just, you know, the Dana White Contender Series, or Medina was a freak athlete and just took everything, but yeah, even in the Malim fight, which went decision, he fell off a cliff as the second round starts, and it's concerning. And then he has to rely on his wrestling, because he becomes sloppy on the feet, and his chin is wide open in the air. And if he can't get his opponents down to the ground, he struggles. With Ribeiro, he's got an 81-inch reach, which is huge, especially in this fight. He's got a 6-inch reach advantage, which could play beneficial to him, because I said Gadzhiyasulov, he leans back and he leaves his chin exposed. But he also has some nice striking with it. You saw in that Zhang fight, he did well with the striking, and just Zhang had a blockhead and took everything that Ribeiro threw and countered him beautifully with the left hook. But we do see some flaws in Ribeiro, and they're quite obvious. First of all, his chin is wide open, like in that Zhang fight. He throws caution to the wind and just goes for the kill. Even when like his opponent's not injured, like hurt or anything like that, he still thinks he should go 100% all the time. Out of his 21 fights, only 2 have been to decision. So it is concerning that, like I said, that Gadzhiyasulov falls off a cliff after the second round, or the first round really, but so does Ribeiro, and it's pretty evident. He kind of like, if he gets later on in the fights, he lays on his back and he throws up a few submissions, and if you can't get him, then he just basically gives up and kind of curls into a ball. We saw that in a couple of fights. We saw in the Denis Vygotsky fight and also the Marcio Breno fight, which is concerning here because Gadzhiyasulov is a good wrestler. I don't think anyone should be parlaying Gadzhiyasulov. I don't think anyone should be laying the entire bankroll on him, but I do think he wins this one. And the reason why I think he wins this one is because I think round 1 is clear to him. Unless he gets clipped by Ribeiro and gets caught off guard, round 1 goes to him. Then I said he has cardio concerns in round 2, but I still think he can secure takedowns, and I do think he's good enough to avoid the submissions of Ribeiro that he'll be throwing up. I think Ribeiro is more of a submission fighter over a get up and get back to your feet fighter when taken to the ground. So I think that will lay heavily in favor of Gadzhiyasulov. And then third round might get dicey, but like I said, Ribeiro doesn't have the best gas tank either. So I do think this will... Oh man, will this go to decision? No, I think Gadzhiyasulov is going to ground and pound him and going to find a victory, just like firing shots from top mount or something like that. In the second round, I'll say the second round, but yeah, it is a close fight, and like I just don't think Gadzhiyasulov should be as respected as he is as an ADO fighter. You see these undefeated fighters, you're like, oh, they're invincible. I think Gadzhiyasulov is far from invincible, and unless he ties up these cardio concerns, I think he will have a hard time in the UFC coming against tougher competition. But for now, I'm going to give him the round 2 ground and pound TKO. Up next, we've got Kang versus Muin Gafurov, and this is kind of like a clash of styles. So we've got the calm, composed person in Kang versus just the hellacious fighter in Gafurov. But I guess we'll start off with the Kang side. So like I said, he's a composed fighter. He is clean with everything he does, and that works for him in some fights. You saw it in the Dinar Bakary fight. He showed that he has experience. He's 36 years old, and he has over 20 pro fights, nearly 30. And you can definitely see it. He stays calm, he figures the fight out as it goes, and he doesn't force anything. He also has some nice calf kicks, and you saw that as well in the Dinar Bakary fight and also in the John Castaneda fight. He was kind of lighting up that calf, and you know, lesser fighters might have been you know, more susceptible to taking more damage from that kick. But you know, Dinar and John Castaneda are 2 decent opponents, and they dealt with it. I did say he doesn't force the fight, which I do think is a bit of a negative, because you saw it in that Castaneda fight. He was backing up John the whole fight. But what did he do? Not much. He didn't really do anything. He kind of just watched, and he was like... I don't know. He just seemed disinterested in that fight. You also saw in the Rani Yaha fight and the John Castaneda fight as well that he can get taken down, and that might spell a bit of trouble in this fight because Gafurov has some mean wrestling. And then we've also seen his chin is a bit, it's not the worst, but it does get touched a bit. In the Canones fight, he was lucky to get a nice count on Canones because Canones hurt him. And also in the Dinar Bakary fight, he survived a knockdown on that one. For Gafurov, I said he's hellacious, and he is a fun fighter to watch. He does everything. That John Castaneda fight, they've got a common opponent here, but the Castaneda fight, he was just throwing, and you could see he was getting gassed, but he just kept on going, wrestling, striking. He broke his hand in that fight, and he got the point taken away. And I feel like if those 2 things didn't happen, he probably would have had a good shot at beating Castaneda, which is a real good win to have that as your UFC debut. He has some nice calf kicks. You saw it in the Silver fight. And he's dynamic. He throws some axe kicks, some spinning back kicks. He got a spinning back kick knockout, I remember, a couple fights ago on the regional scene, which was pretty cool to see. But he is sloppy, and you definitely saw that in like the Angelica fight on the Contender Series, and you know, obviously in the Castaneda fight, he is sloppy. He kind of just does whatever his body wants him to do. He doesn't really think things through, and that might play a bit of trouble here against someone like Kang, who I said figures fights out as it goes. But all in all, I do think Gafurov wins this fight, and it's at a medium confidence pick, and here's why. I think Kang, no matter what happens in the fight, is going to stay at the same pace. Whereas if Gafurov needs to change something, I feel like he will. He will be going 100% all the time, and he will switch it up. Whereas Kang, I feel like he won't switch it up that much. If he's going to get wrestled, he might defend a few takedowns, but I guarantee you Gafurov will get him down at least once or twice. Then in the striking, it's competitive. Obviously, Kang has the more precise and accurate strikes, but Gafurov will be throwing the volume. And these days, I think you just need to want to win more. And I feel like Gafurov brings that to this fight. Unless he gets chinned or rocked or something, because he did get hurt in the Castaneda fight, but he took a flush head kick, and it was a head kick that went to the back of his like temple, between his temple and the back of his head, and he somehow ate it. So I don't really think he's going to get knocked out here. And yeah, he might get hurt, but I highly doubt it. I think Gafurov can win this, and I think he wins this one by decision. Next up, we have Rinat Fakhretdinov making return against Nicolas Dalby, the ultra vet. And I didn't realize his record was so good. 23-4 is ridiculous. And, you know, he keeps improving it. He got that win against Bonfim last fight, which was insane. And I actually bet Dalby in that fight because I knew that Bonfim was just sloppy. And if he went to the pace that he went in all these other fights, he was either going to gas out or he was going to get clocked. And that's what happened. He gassed out because nobody finishes Dalby. He's never been finished in 4 of his fights. So I think with the breakdown, I'll continue with Dalby. He is, like I said, durable. He's never been finished, and I feel like that is detrimental to a lot of fighters that he's going to be coming against, because they're going to have to go the full 15 minutes with this man. If they can't out-grit him and out-tough him, they're not going to win this fight. He has insane cardio. You saw in the Salikov fight, he just ramped it up another notch, and people were doubting him because he's 39 and he does this weird Wim Hof breathing technique. But he stays around the whole 3 rounds, and he does well striking, and he does some real nice head kicks, some real nice clinch work, and just an all-round like decent fighter. I wouldn't say he excels in anything, but I think his best attribute is definitely his cardio mixed with his toughness. He just kind of wears in his opponents and wins these tough, scrappy fights. I will say, but he is not the most skilled fighter, and we've seen it before, and especially with the takedowns. Everyone, and I mean everyone, has taken him down, and this is going to spell trouble in this fight against Rinat, because Rinat is just a pure wrestler. But he has been taken down by literally everyone, and it concerns me because he got taken down by Wally Alves, who isn't really a grappler. He kind of likes to strike, and old man Claudio Silva, who was like on one leg, just like in the retirement home, took him down. So yeah, that is a bit of concern. But he kind of did pop back up to his feet relatively fast, so that might play a big factor in here. We'll see. For Rinat, he is just a wrestler, okay? Yes, he knocked down Kevin Lee, he knocked down Brian Battle a couple of times, but that's because they were thinking that he was going to shoot, and he kind of did what Khabib did to Conor. He faked the shot and went with an overhand right. If you actually look at his striking, it's really bad. It sucks. You saw it in the Zaleski fight. He just throws windmills, and it's just horrible. I don't know if Dalby will be able to capitalize on that, because I don't think Dalby is the best striker ever. So, but until Rinat comes against a really good striker, I don't think that will spell trouble for him too much. He is a relentless wrestler, and he is good at it. You saw in the Brian Battle fight, even though Battle doesn't have the best takedown defense, he controlled him for 3 rounds and absolutely dominated him and threw some real nice ground and pound strikes with it. In the Zaleski fight, he took down Zaleski, which is hard to do. And he won the first round, or first 2 rounds. And it looked good for Rinat until he gassed out and he got hurt to the body. So yeah, he isn't invincible, and his record is pretty scary, 21-1-1, but he can be beaten. Now, everyone is saying Fakhretdinov's lock, he's going to be my parlays. Guys, how many times does Dalby have to prove you wrong? Do not make Fakhretdinov your lock of the card. I do think he wins this because I do think he can control Dalby for at least 2 rounds, and I don't think Dalby is scary enough to finish Fakhretdinov in the 3rd. I feel like it might be a similar fight to the Zaleski fight, where Fakhretdinov is winning the majority fight and then it looks a bit choppy at the end, but it doesn't go to a 10-8. I think he wins this one by like a 29-28, sorry. Yeah, just Dalby's takedown defense is a concern. And unless he can, if he stops those takedowns or gets back up, then seriously, live bet Dalby, because he is going to win this fight, because Fakhretdinov does gas out if he can't keep it in his realm of the grappling. So with that, 29-28, Fakhretdinov to win this fight. Next up, we have Nasrat Haqparast versus Jared Gorden. It's funny that we have Haqparast and Gastelm on the same card, which I'm sure the UFC did on purpose. But anyway, Haqparast, known as a boxer and is a pure boxer, and he is damn good at it. He showed in the Malaki fight that he has knockout power, and yes, everyone's knocking out Malaki lately, but still, to do it in the fashion he did in the first round, straight through the middle of his guard, and just pouncing him and threw like 30 unanswered strikes to knock out Malaki. Even in the Canones fight, he showed that he has cardio for 3 rounds at a high boxing pace, because they went to war. I was at that fight in UFC Sydney, and it was definitely fight of the night. It was a lovely watch. But yeah, Haqparast showed the skill that he has, and also the maturity that he has shown and grown up in the UFC. He's been in the UFC for quite a while now, and he's definitely taken on some hard matchups. One thing to note that he has implemented in his game recently is the wrestling. He took down John Makdessi to skewer rounds, which is a good thing to like, a good accomplishment. And also Canones, he shot the wrestling on Canones, which is something that is difficult to do to Canones because he is a wrestler himself. Now, people might bring up the Hooker fight and say, yeah, he got out-wrestled in that fight, which might spell trouble in this fight for him against Jared Gorden. But he did openly admit that he was expecting to stand and bang with Hooker, and for Hooker not actually to wrestle. So I think he just didn't train for the wrestling, and he kind of got caught off guard for this one, or for that one. Jared Gorden is just a consistent fighter. I wouldn't say he excels at anything. He's just good everywhere. He picked his shots well against Paddy Pillman, which was, I don't know if it was a robbery because I rewatched that a couple of times, and Paddy Pillman definitely landed the harder shots of the two, but he had a very competitive fight with him. Even in the Bobby Green fight, Bobby Green is known as a boxer and actually outboxed Haqparast. But yeah, in that fight, Gorden was doing well with Bobby Green and timing his shots as a counter. He also shows good cardio. In the Selecki fight, he showed that he can take over the fight. He kind of lost the first round and took over as the fight went on. And in the Mark Madsen fight, he was like getting stormed on by Mark Madsen. I've never seen a performance like that. That was a bit weird and it was a bit odd, because I've just never seen Madsen go like balls to the wall in the first round, but he did. And then Jared Gorden kind of just used his vet experience to weather the storm and finish Madsen in, I think it was the first or second. Now, I think there is a few cons or detriments to Gorden, and the first one being his chin. It hasn't been a recent flaw, but he has been KO'd 4 times, and there was quite a period of time where he had been KO'd in succession. He also took that headbutt from Bobby Green, which was a no contest, but it was still a KO. So, and that was only 2 fights ago. I also don't think he's very dangerous, or he doesn't show a threat to many fighters. He kind of just wins by being the UFC vet. I think he just figures fighters out as it goes, and he shows his experience, but he doesn't really like scare any fighters or finish anyone. If he used his wrestling more in this fight, I think I would be less confident in Haqparast, but he doesn't really shoot shots or anything like that. He kind of just counter grapples, as seen like the Pimblet fight. And yeah, I don't think he traditionally shoots for takedowns, and I think that's going to spell trouble for him, because I think Haqparast is the much faster of the two, definitely has the better boxing of the two, and I think he's going to actually knock out Jared Gorden. I'm going to put it out here now that he knocks out Jared Gorden in the first or second, because I just don't think he's going to be able to take the clean shots of Haqparast. A lot of fighters say it's not the shots that you see, it's the shots that you don't see that knock you out. And you know, Haqparast might not be the most physically imposing or power puncher out there, but he throws shots that fighters don't see. And he was hurting Canones multiple times, but Canones is an absolute dog, and he knocked out Malaki in his recent fight. I think he's stepping up, he's entering his prime, 28 years of age, and yeah, I think for this one he gets the KO on Jared Gorden in rounds 1 or 2. Next up, we have Sharabutdin returning against the newcomer Joilton Lutterbach. And this Joilton Lutterbach has over 45 pro fights. That is insane for his age. He's only 31 years old. He represents Germany, but that's because of his wife. He's actually Brazilian, and you can sort of see it in the way he fights. We'll start off with him. He's known as a striker, but he's only okay at striking. I don't think he's that good. He showed it off in the Kortruta fight, where he has these nice uppercuts and straight shots, and he throws with power, but he is slow, and you can see it. He doesn't have any fast twitch muscles, I'm telling you, or fibers. He throws, and it's like quicksand. I think someone like Magomedov will easily be able to see those strikes. He also has good takedowns. You saw in these 2 fights against Rouge Manfio and Clay Collard, which Clay Collard, he should have won that fight. That was a robbery and a half. But he took them down, and those are formidable opponents to take down. They're not like no slumps or anything like that. And they definitely have better wrestling defense than Magomedov, which I'll get to in a second. Sharabutdin, we all know what he possesses. He is a striker. He trained in Thailand for many years and had many fights in Thailand just in Muay Thai. He has some of the most dynamic and flexible kicks and hips that I've ever seen in my life. The strikes and the kicks that he was throwing against, for example, Bruno Silva, was insane. I don't know how Bruno Silva didn't get knocked out by a few of them, because they were hitting him clean on the jaw. But yeah, that was really good to see. But he has one major flaw, and it is the wrestling defense. He is atrocious, and you can see he has no jiu-jitsu and he has no defensive wrestling. Guys, Magomedov is a good kickboxer, a good Muay Thai fighter, but he is not a good MMA fighter. I'm telling you that right now. And someone like Lutterbach can actually expose that. You saw in the Breno Silva fight, he was controlled for like 2 rounds, just laying off his back striking, which is good. Yeah, okay, you strike off your back, but you only do that if there's like a minute left in the round. You don't do that for the whole round. You try and get back to your feet and you try and shine where you're the best at and where you have a clear advantage. He didn't do that, and that might get him into trouble against certain fighters that won't just be as timid as Breno Silva in the back and will actually throw strikes or will pass his guard and mount him, and then he won't be able to do anything from there. I think this is a close fight because I do think Lutterbach will be able to get the takedowns. And let's go back to the takedowns for a second on Magomedov. He's in like denial of it. I saw an interview with him talking about his wrestling and how he experienced that in the Breno Silva, and he was just saying, "Oh, the UFC just want to see Dagestani wrestlers, strikers, not wrestlers." I'm like, bro, the interviewer wasn't even asking that question. He was talking about how you dealt with that and how you're going to deal with that. It's like he's just avoidant of that topic. Yeah, so I think Lutterbach can have success with the grappling, but and I said this last week and I said it the week before and I've said it many times. You got to think about who the UFC want to win, and the UFC wants this cyborg looking man to win this fight. He's undefeated and he has a real scary demeanor to him. They want him to win this fight, and I guarantee you, like I put all my money on it. If it goes to a close decision, he's gonna get the nod. Why? Because I'm telling you, the UFC, the judges, there's something in the air there, and Magomedov will get, even if he's on his back for the whole 15 minutes, even if he's gonna be throwing strikes, and he will win this decision if it goes there. But Lutterbach can sub or finish Magomedov if he gets to top mount, but I don't think it will happen. But I do think it will be a very close fight. I'm going to give Magomedov the win here, and I'm going to give it by decision. Johnny Walker makes his return after getting slept by Ankalaev versus Volkan Oezdemir, who makes his return after getting a nice submission victory against the surging Bogdan Guskov. I still think he's a pretty trash, but yeah, I guess that's a good victory to have. We'll start off with Walker. So he's known to be a dynamic striker, but is he really anymore? I don't think so. Ever since he's transferred to SBG Ireland, he's just turned into a leg kicker. Really, he tried to do that against Ankalaev, and Ankalaev figured him out because he's a very good fighter, and he did it against Smith. And if Smith was 5 years younger, I feel like Smith would have figured him out and counted him on those leg kicks, because he just throws them openly and he just does that to stay away. And I think SBG are trying to just conserve Johnny Walker's major weakness, which is his chin. You've seen it in multiple fights, and people were saying, oh, maybe he's got his chin back because he didn't get knocked out for a few fights. But then Ankalaev showed it right back that he doesn't have a chin and he can get cracked. And I don't know if it's a durability problem or if he's just very open and defensively irresponsible and he just gets hit clean. Volkan Oezdemir, I feel like he's a bit underrated by the MMA community, and I think it's just because he doesn't carry that much of an aura, or he's not very flashy with what he does. But this man is a former title challenger against the one and only DC. Not me. Daniel Cormier, not this DC. But yeah, he's a good fighter, and you've seen it and in fights and in glimpses of fights. Against Yuri Prohaska, he had a tight left hook that he was catching Yuri with, and he hurt him like 2 times. And of course, Yuri survived because Yuri is just made out of I don't know what. He has the most insane durability I've ever seen. In the Bogdan Guskov fight, he dealt with the onslaught of Guskov in the first round and caught him clean and hurt him as well. He has some really nice striking and some really nice composure. He did get out wrestled in the Krylov fight, but Johnny Walker is not going to wrestle Oezdemir. And in the Paul Craig fight, he showed some really high fight IQ. I thought he had the better victory out of the two. Yes, Johnny Walker knocked him out, but it was a sloppy knockout. It was like Craig was going for his leg and he just like threw a back fist while Craig was going for the single leg and knocked him out. Whereas Oezdemir knew what he had to do. He knew he had to stay away, and he played that fight to a T. I guess the flaw that you can say about him is that yes, his chin is also a bit weak. But who has the weaker chin out of the two? I think Walker by far. Oezdemir 8 shots from Guskov, 8 shots from Yuri Prohaska, and also Magomed Ankalaev he 8 shots from. So I definitely think Walker has the lesser durability of the two, and I think that's what's going to win Oezdemir this fight. I'm picking the underdog here because I think Oezdemir has the more technical striking, I think he has the better boxing, and I feel like Walker is going to have to rely on either getting a random like bonk through like a knee or something, or he's going to rely on those leg kicks the whole time. Whereas Oezdemir, I know, has better in-tight boxing and has probably a better game plan than Walker. And also, like I said, has the better chin out of the two. So yeah, he might be coming off only 2 wins against, you know, Craig and Guskov, which I don't hold that high. But I think he's a better fighter out of the two. I think he has more tools. I think he can even implement the wrestling if he wants to, but I highly doubt it. So yeah, I think Oezdemir wins this one, and I think he wins this one by knockout in the first round. Next up, we have Muhammad Naimov versus Felipe Lima, who is a short notice replacement for MagomedcGadzhiyasulov, who is just, I don't know, he just never fights, and I think he's kind of shooting himself in the foot here because he's a talented fighter. But anyway, Lima, what have we seen from him? He is a fun fighter, and he is wild. I couldn't find much tape in him, but to be honest, and the only one I could really find was his last fight against Magard after a 2-year layoff. And he has all the skill sets. He can wrestle, he can strike, he does jiu-jitsu, and he has a good gas tank as well to match that. They went through a 5-round war, and it was back and forth. He showed us some really crisp boxing, but I think he liked it on the floor more than anything. He tried to take down Magard multiple times, and sometimes he got reversed, and other times he secured position. And he also went for some nice sub attempts, but I also noticed he is very, very, very wild. He could have held position or just played safely in certain aspects of the fight, but he went for some wild stuff that kind of lost him position and kind of lost him rounds in that fight. He doesn't stop moving, but he is calculated. It's weird. Like, he will know when to shoot a takedown. He doesn't just shoot it blindly or anything like that. He sets up his strikes with his takedowns, and that was good to see. I did notice he can get taken down, and something that I don't like all the time, I don't mind it, but you have to also notice when to stop, is when he was getting taken down, he would go for sub attempts rather than trying to stop the takedown. And like I said, you can try and go for a sub here and there, go for a gilly, but he was going for it 3-4 times in that fight, and it kind of allowed Magard to get top position, and when on bottom, he either got held there for the rest of the round, or he kind of gassed himself out by trying to get up from that position. With Naimov, we've seen him before in the UFC, and he is just proving everyone wrong. He's been like an underdog in multiple fights. Against Wood, he was an underdog, and he showed that he has beautiful striking and beautiful power. He knocked down Wood 2 times, and yeah, he got hurt by Wood as well, but he showed that he can strike with Nathaniel Wood, who is a really formidable striker. He also knocked out Jamie Malarkey, which poor Jamie Malarkey, we've talked about him twice now about getting knocked out, but that was up at lightweight, which is something I need to point out in this fight, which I'll get to in a second. His striking, like I said, is solid, but his wrestling is where it excels. His shots are absolutely beautiful, and you saw him take down Nathaniel Wood, who's a hard fighter to take down. He is hittable, and you could see it in the first round of the Malarkey fight. Malarkey was kind of dominating in the first round, and in the Wood fight, Wood was landing some clear shots, and like I said, hurt Naimov. He is also a bit of a cheater, and you could see that in the Wood fight. He should have probably lost like 1 or 2 points in that fight, because he groin shotted him, he poked him in the eye, and he also grabbed the cage when getting taken down. So it might be something to note that if you're going to lay Naimov here. But the one major thing I want to talk about here is Naimov is a fighter who has moved up to lightweight before. He's a featherweight fighter, but he can fight lightweight. This Silva kid is a bantamweight, and I think he's a small bantamweight. And he's moving up to featherweight for this fight on short notice to fight Naimov. And yes, he was fighting for a title defense in 3 weeks, but that was at bantamweight, not at featherweight. I think Naimov is going to have the size advantage here, and he showed it in the Wood fight. Wood was also a bantamweight, moving up to featherweight, and you could see that the size difference was apparent. I feel like Naimov will just be able to secure top position and hold him there for long periods of the fights, because I just feel like size does play a factor in fights. And even in the height's quite a large difference here as well. So yeah, I do think Lima is good, and I do think he's a star, but I think he belongs in the bantamweight division. I don't think he's going to have success in the featherweight division, but it is a low confidence pick, because I do think Lima is extremely skilled, and probably skill for skill has the same, if not better, skill set than Naimov. I do think the weight is going to play a large factor in here, and the short notice as well. It is apparent. So yeah, I'm going to pick Naimov. I'm going to pick him to win by decision, but it is a low confidence pick. Kelvin Gastelm is back versus Daniel Rodriguez, and no, this is not Nasrat Haqparast. This is Kelvin Gastelm fighting Daniel Rodriguez. Like, yeah, like I said, I can't believe they put him on the same card. That's pretty funny. But we'll start off with the Rodriguez side. So he's been away for like over a year after that head kick KO to the one and only Ian Machado Gary, and before that he was putting a good resume together. He was showing off that he belongs in this division, and he showed that he has very nice boxing. He is a boxer at heart, and that's how he fights. He throws straight punches and he picks his shots. He should be on a 3-fight losing streak, but because he lost to Neil Magny by submission, he got KO'd by Ian Gary, and the Leech definitely beat him. That was a pure robbery, and I don't understand how that ever got scored for Rodriguez. But anyway, in those fights, he showed that he has boxing, but he shows that he has a low output, which might be a detriment in this fight, because he picks his shots. He's not a person who puts on the pressure and boxes his opponents back against the cage. He likes to let his opponents throw, counter, or if they're both not doing anything in the middle of the cage, he'll throw one or two, and that's how the fight will go. For Gastelm, I think he's a bit of an opposite fighter to Rodriguez. He is a boxer as well, but he likes to throw in the pocket, and he likes to throw combinations. So he won't just throw one or two punches, he'll throw a multitude of punches. And you saw that in the Chris Curtis fight, which is a very, very good win to have. And yes, the headbutt played a part in that fight, but still, to box with Curtis in the pocket is something that you shouldn't take lightly in terms of judging Gastelm. He also has some nice leg kicks, and he has fought the much better competition. He has fought the who's who of this division, and he's been around forever, and I can't believe he's only 32 years old. He's been around for yonks since Uriah Hall. And Uriah Hall was retired like 2 years ago, and still Gastelm has a solid couple of years left. Now, what do we know about Gastelm? He is an on and off fighter. It's like a light switch. He's either good or he's bad. You saw in the Sean Brady fight, that was a horrible look. But don't worry, Sean Brady is not Daniel Rodriguez. Daniel Rodriguez is not going to wrestle Gastelm. You also saw in the fight against, who was it? It was recent, Jared Cannonier. He was competitive, but he let that fight slip away from him because he just wasn't, I don't think he was mentally there. And I feel like that's what happens to Gastelm. He seems there, and he's moving back down to 170 pounds, which is where he belongs, because he is a bit of a tubby boy, and he shouldn't be fighting up. He's only 5'9", he's shorter than me. So yeah, he shouldn't be fighting up at 185. That's just silly. But this fight is a boxing fight, and who do you think's gonna have the high output? I think Gastelm's gonna have the high output. Who do you think is going to be pushing the fight more? I think Gastelm's gonna be pushing the fight more. Who do you think's gonna have the clean strikes? I think Rodriguez. But all in all, this comes down to who's gonna be doing the more output, who's gonna win the judges over, because I do think it's going to decision. And I think Gastelm wins this one. I think he wins it pretty. Like, it's a medium confidence pick, but I think he wins it pretty solidly, because I don't think Rodriguez shows any threat that his other fighters have shown. I don't think he shows the power that Cannonier showed. I don't think he shows the versatility that Whittaker did, and he definitely doesn't have the wrestling that Sean Brady had. So I think it's a pretty clear win for Gastelm if he shows up. If he doesn't show up, then yeah, Rodriguez can win this one. But I think Gastelm wins this one on volume, on output, and just being the better in-type boxer. And if he pushes Daniel Rodriguez back, I think he can win this one. Daniel Rodriguez is not going to be improving as fast as Gastelm is, because Rodriguez is 37, he's getting up there in age. And you see once they get over that 35 age mark that they, it's not deteriorating, but it's not improving, if that makes sense. Unless you're Alexander Volkanovski, then yeah, that goes out the window. But I'm going to pick Gastelm, and I'm going to pick him by a pretty convincing 30-27 decision. Next up, for the UFC Saudi Arabia co-main event, we got Sergei Pavlovich versus Alexander Volkov. And if this fight doesn't end in the distance, I've got a little preposition here. It's either the UFC gloves are horrible and they're like too padded or something like that, or these two fighters fix the fight, because we do know that Volkov and Pavlovich were friends and they trained together in camps, and they openly admitted they did not want to fight each other, but the UFC kind of forced the occasion. So if the fight goes to a decision, you know that those two things played a heavy part in that. But anyway, we'll start off with Volkov, and I think Volkov has definitely shown that he's like entering his prime, even at the ripe age of 35. His last couple of fights, he has shown some real nice striking defense, especially in that Tuivasa fight. He used his height and his tight guard to block literally every single punch that Tuivasa threw. And yes, Tuivasa threw wide hooks that weren't straight, and you know, most people probably could have blocked him. But I loved how Volkov never got hit once and fired back after those exchanges. He did that in the Rosenstrike fight as well. He allowed Rosenstrike to kind of get overzealous, and he countered him with like a nice check left hook. We've also seen some nice grappling from him. We saw it in the Tuivasa fight. But look, people are talking about the grappling. I highly doubt Volkov's going to use it here because I don't think he's going to shoot at Pavlovich. And we saw Pavlovich defend a takedown against Aspinall, who I think probably has the more speed and thought process when entering takedowns compared to Volkov, who's like barely shot a takedown in his life. For Pavlovich, we all know him. He's a powerhouse. He's a round one machine. And he's got some real nice boxing. He's not just a barrager where he just throws like crazy strikes that just are not technical. He does throw technical strikes and they're straight as well. And that's what I love about him in this fight. He will throw some... He's got an 84-inch reach, which is just crazy. And he throws this like shovel uppercut, which is just... He's hurt multiple opponents with. Now, we all know his weakness, and it is that he has no ground game. We saw that in the Overeem fight, but that was a long, long time ago. And I don't think he's either improved it or just people haven't been able to get that fight to the ground, or like just hasn't gone long enough to get there. But I think he's definitely at least improved it somewhat to stop takedowns against Volkov. I also noticed, however, in the barrages that he does, like against Tuivasa, when he hurt Tuivasa, he leaves his chin wide open. But in saying that, he did take punches. I think what caught him against Tom Aspinall was just the speed. I think Tom Aspinall was just so fast that Pavlovich wasn't able to brace himself and take the shot on. And like I said prior in my previous breakdowns, it's the shots that you don't see that hurt you the most. And I think Aspinall just caught him off guard here. Now, this is a tough fight to predict, and I don't think anyone should be too confident on either side. I feel like if Volkov exits the first round, he wins this fight pretty clearly. But I do think Pavlovich catches Volkov. And the reason is, I think Volkov relies on his height too much when defensively blocking strikes. And I think he relies on fighters to throw those wide hooks like Tuivasa, like Rosenstrike. Pavlovich doesn't do that. He throws through the guard, and he throws also like beneath the guard with the shovel uppercut. I think he's going to catch Volkov and just unleash a barrage on him. And if he does that barrage, I think he is going to finish Volkov. It's a very low confidence pick because, like I said, I think Volkov probably has the higher skill set of the two. But I feel like Pavlovich will catch Volkov, and it will be most likely a round 1 KO. And here we are, the UFC Saudi Arabia main event. We got Bobby Knuckles, Robert Whittaker versus Ikram Aliskerov, the short notice replacement for the weird, the unknown Khamzat Chimaev. I don't know where he is. I don't know what's happening to him. He just seems to get sick every time it gets close to a fight. But I guess you got to feel sorry for the guy because I think he wants to fight, but yeah, it's just not working out for him right now. But anyway, we'll start off with Bobby Knuckles. We all know what he brings. He is an insane fighter, and there's the amount of fighters that have said that they could not figure out this man is insane. I've never seen more professional fighters glamorize another fighter than Bobby Knuckles. For instance, Vettori, he just said he could not figure out Whittaker, and fighters can't. Even Paulo Costa couldn't figure out Whittaker. It's just he brings this unique style with his karate stance where he darts in and out with the 1-2s and the head kicks and the teeps, and he just kind of picks his opponents apart. We've also seen him have immense takedown defense, especially against Ribeiro, and that was Ribeiro kind of in his prime. And Whittaker was able to stuff most of the takedowns that Ribeiro threw, who's an Olympic wrestler, probably a better wrestler than Aliskerov. Now, we saw Dricus du Plessis take down Rob Whittaker, but that was a weird like head and arm throw. And we saw that Whittaker kind of said that he just wasn't prepared enough for that fight, and he just didn't take it serious enough. Now, Aliskerov, he has all the traits. He has the grappling and he has the striking. We saw against Alves and Hawes that he has power in his strikes, and we saw against Souza and Barral that he has the takedowns and the grappling. He hit a nice Kimura against Souza on the Contender Series, and he knocked out Hawes with like a beautiful straight punch. But I will say that his striking, although it has power, isn't the best in terms of how do I say it? In terms of technique. He's wild, and he throws himself off balance a lot. You saw, especially like against the Hawes, he like threw these weird punches and fell off balance and like fell to the floor. You can't be doing that against Whittaker, because Whittaker will pick up on these flaws and will capitalize on them and figure you out and beat you up on the feet. I also saw this man's only been to the decision twice, okay? And those are 3-round decisions, not 5-round ones, by the way. And in both of those, against Burrell and Chad Hannekam, he was gassed in the third round, and he had to rely on his wrestling to win him those rounds. But he was visibly tired, and he looked sloppy, and this could play a huge factor in this fight, because this is a 5-round fight, and Aliskerov went from fighting an absolute bum in Tricoli, an absolute bum, to fighting one of the best fighters in this division ever. Robert Whittaker's not over the hill. Everyone says his chin, is bad, and yeah, he got clipped by Costa. But for the majority of fight, for the 3 rounds, he was piecing up Costa. It was just the shot that he didn't see that caught him off guard, and which was a spinning wheel kick. And he took it. And you know what happened after it? He took flush punches by Costa in that barrage easily, and he didn't even get wobbled by that. So I think Whittaker's chin is a bit over-exaggerated, and I think it's just the shots that he doesn't see, like that step-in jab that Dricus threw that dropped him. It's just the shots that he doesn't see that hurt him. Now, I do understand this fight's volatile, because I do think Aliskerov can potentially hurt Whittaker. But I feel like Whittaker just is the better fighter overall, and will be able to finish Aliskerov in the 4th and 5th round. I think it will be a 4-5 or decision victory for Whittaker here, because I feel like his veteran savvy experience, he might get taken down, but he will stay composed, and he will find his way back up to the feet and kind of tire out Aliskerov. I'm telling you, Aliskerov was training for just a complete bum in Tricoli. Tricoli doesn't deserve to be in the UFC, and Aliskerov would have wiped him within 1 round. I guarantee you, he has not had enough time to mentally prepare. He's also cutting weight twice in 1 week, but prepare, game plan, and just understand the threat that he's coming against in Whittaker, because Whittaker can take on the best of the best in division. He debatably beat Adesanya in that second fight. He beat Costa. Dricus is a champion, and I think people underestimate Dricus, including myself, still to this day, because he's just a bit of a funky fighter. But still, I think Whittaker has all the skills to win this, and unless he gets bonked in the first round, I think he wins this one by, like I said, 4-5 or decision. It's a low confidence pick, because I do respect the skill set by Aliskerov, but I think the veteran experience, I think the skill set, and just the overall game plan of Whittaker will win this fight. And it's not too much of a change from Kamza. He knows he has to defend the takedowns, and he knows he has to watch out for the power on the feet. So it's kind of like a mirror match a bit. And he knows that both fighters will probably gas after 3 rounds. So yeah, I don't think it's that big of a change for Whittaker as it is for Aliskerov. So for that, I'm going to pick Whittaker, and Whittaker to win in either rounds 4, 5, or decision. And with that, that's the fight card over. It's a really short card, only 11 fights. Probably some more will be added during the week. I hope so. I don't think Basharat's on the card anymore, which is sad, because I would have loved to see him fight. But yeah, the card's at 2 a.m. for me, which is going to be a struggle to wake up. I think I'll still be awake, actually. I'll just pull an all-nighter. But yeah, it's a fun card, I guess. I'm a bit disappointed. A few good fights fell off. I feel like they should have rebooked the Van versus Ulanbekov fight for this one. For this card, that would have been a fun one to add here. And Ulanbekov has a support in Saudi Arabia, but yeah, that's a miss on the UFC's part. Maybe Ulanbekov's just too sick right now. Other than that, I guess this video is over. I hope you enjoyed the predictions. Please subscribe. The channel's slowly starting to gain a good audience, but none of you are subscribing, and none of you is commenting either. I need to know what I can improve on, or what you like in the video. So please let me know down below, and slowly but surely this channel will improve and improve and improve. And yeah, hopefully we have a solid sweep this card. I'm feeling a lot more confident in my picks in this card than I am the previous 2 weeks. So it should be a good one. I'll come out with my best bets in about 2 days, I would say. And yeah, other than that, enjoy your week. Take care. Start studying some tape. And I'll catch you very soon. Catch you later. Ciao.